are standing on sacred ground. The same sacred ground that the world-renowned African-American contralto Marian Anderson stood on in 1939 and serenaded over 75,000 people after the daughters of the American Revolution refused to let her sing in Constitution Hall because of the color of her skin. The same sacred ground that over 250,000 representatives of the progressive religious community and civil rights and labor movements gathered in front of this memorial during the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom on August the 28th, 1963. The joyful noise heard on this occasion resonated throughout the halls of Congress and the streets and alleyways of this land until America's dark citizens were finally freed of many of the legal shackles that prevented their full citizenship. The same sacred ground that over 100,000 Vietnam War protesters gathered on October the 21st, 1967 to protest our government's pursuit of an unholy war of devastation that created widows, orphans, mentally and physically handicapped, and dead soldiers on both sides of the conflict, while diverting precious resources from our national education, employment, and social service needs. The same sacred ground that over 1 million African American men stretched from the U.S. Capitol to this Lincoln Memorial on October the 16th, 1995, to recommit themselves to their families, to crime and violence-free lifestyles, and positive work in our communities. It is sacred ground to us because the religion of Islam teaches us that God is on the side of the oppressed. The Prophet of Islam, Muhammad, the son of Abdullah, taught that the mighty and the powerful should be particularly careful how they treat the weak and oppressed, because there is nothing standing between the prayers of the oppressed and God. And God answers the supplications of the oppressed. Brothers and sisters, we have a God. No matter what faith tradition we come from, we know that God is a God of justice. There is a saying of the Prophet of Islam, Muhammad, that if we are in a society and we see something wrong, then we are obligated by faith to stop that wrong with our hands. If we can't stop it with our hands, we must speak out against it. And if we're in such a weak condition that we can't speak out against it, we have to hate it in our hearts and not be a part of it. God is a God of justice. For all of us here, from all the colors and nationalities, we may have come to this land in a different ship, but we are now in the same boat. Let me just share just one other point in closing. There's another saying of the Prophet of Islam, Muhammad, the son of Abdullah, that there were people riding in a ship that had 2 decks. And there was a man on the lower deck who wanted water, and the water was upstairs, and he didn't want to bother the people upstairs, so he began to knock a hole in the bottom of the boat. And Muhammad, the Prophet, has said that if the people on the upper deck and those on the bottom deck didn't stop this man from knocking a hole in the boat, the only transportation that they had would sink and they would all die. And so one nation working together makes this ground sacred today. We are lifting up God's name and championing the victims of uncontrolled corporate greed and out-of-control military and prison industrial complex and misguided education policies. It must be so, God willing. Assalamu alaikum.